everyone, welcome back to Wonderland TCG. My name is Deca Wonderland, and today I have with me Gwen.
Hello.
And today we're going to be doing something fun. Gwen is a friend of mine who is relatively new to CEDH, and she is still trying to get her bearings about her, figure out what deck is right for her. So, I thought we'd make a fun game of it. And with me today, I have two contestants who are going to present their deck recommendations to Gwen, and Gwen will pick the one that is her favorite. So, Gwen, when we first started this, you gave me some criteria to send to the others.
My criteria was pretty straightforward. I want a deck that can take it into the long game. I want this deck to have stamina that can keep up against the other players. And I don't want to have to rely on them all the time. I do have some experience. I used to play Gitrog, and I used to play Joda and Circara, and they were all fine, but they weren't exactly me. They couldn't do much to stop my opponents from popping off, and they never really left me with the overwhelming finish that I want in a deck.
And you really emphasized that you wanted something flashy, something with that nice big finish to really get everything going.
Yeah, I like to know that the game is over.
Awesome. And the contestants have sent me their ideas of what that means, and I think we have some spicy tech ahead of us. So, first things first, Riley, why don't you tell us a little bit about the deck that you picked?
Okay, so the deck that I picked, I was throwing around a couple ideas because I was going off of what decks don't rely on someone else? What decks can handle the table and can make their own splashy finish? And so I was thinking about stuff like Timna Thrasios or Timna Malcolm, but I essentially came to the conclusion there was only one real choice, and that is Tasigur the Golden Fang. And so Tasigur is a control deck that aims to stop your opponents doing whatever they're trying to be doing, whether that be combo or aggro or stacks, and it ends the game with either infinite mana and pouring that into Tasigur activations, or its own combos like Oracle or Hullbreaker Horror, or just a couple different lines you can take. But having the access to blue-black is just so important for that explosive finish, and having the pieces you need to be able to control the table and stop other people from winning as well.
Yeah, Tasker offers some really good things. It offers some recursion. Tasker, like you highlighted, Riley, being in blue and black, two really strong colors for finishing. Now, Tasker himself is a 6-mana commander, 1 black, 5 colorless, with the Delve ability. So, for 2 Simic Pips, so either blue or green, and then 2 colorless, you can mill 2 cards, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. Now, Bones, what have you picked for us today?
Well, when I heard the description, one deck immediately came to mind that I believe meets all that criteria. And I further took inspiration from casting the most recent Chaos tournament, where I got to see that deck plays very highly and get to function and do that kind of gameplay in a very high power scenario. So the deck I chose, the commander I chose, is Atraxa Grand Unifier. And this is a deck that has a lot of card advantage. It has a lot of interaction. I specifically put together a build based on the build that was in that tournament and the that same build on the database. And I went in a more reactive way so that you want to sort of get down value engines, get a mana advantage, then get down Atraxa, get some card advantage while stopping opponents from popping off too highly, and then finishing off with a very explosive combo that generally wants you to recast Atraxa a bunch of times and draw a bunch of cards.
abusing Atraxa's ETB, which is so strong, is really good. And now Atraxa is a black, blue, white, and green pip, along with 3 colorless, so 7 CMC in total. And for that, you get a Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink, Phyrexian Angel, that when it enters the battlefield, you can reveal the top 10 cards of your library, and then for each card type, you may put one of those into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library. So we get 1 artifact, 1 battle, 1 creature, 1 enchantment, instant land, planeswalkers, and sorcery. But Gwen, Tasker, and Atraxa, 2 really strong contestants. How are you feeling about these 2 so far?
I like the idea of Atraxa being 7 mana. It speaks to me because when I was growing up, I was a mono green kind of kid. You know, I started playing when Primeval Titan was a thing. So 6 mana lands, ramping, I love it. Tasigur at 6 mana, pretty neato. I admit I've never done much in his color combination. And the fact that it's an opponent's choice for the non-land card leaves me a little bit wary.
And now, Gwen, you have some questions, so feel free to ask each contestant, or you can ask one in particular if something comes to mind.
Tasigur confuses me. I see Thassa's Oracle, I see Demonic Consultation, and I know those are 2 things, but other than that, I guess I just don't see the real beyond Thassa's Oracle. What do I do with Tasigur? What is my goal?
Okay, so the list that I sent over, there's Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal, and so you can make infinite mana that way. And then with that, you activate Tasigur a bunch, and then you mill everything, and then put everything back to hand. Because if you keep doing that, your opponents just don't have a choice on what they give you. You just get everything. And so that's one way you can win the Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. With stuff like the Hullbreaker Horror, you can do functionally the same thing with like a Soul Ring or a Mana Vault or Mana Crypt even, where you cast a rock, you bounce another rock, and then as long as those 2 rocks can pay for themselves, then you can make infinite mana, and then you can filter that into other mana sources, and again, win with infinite Tasigur activations. You can also bounce everybody's board with Hullbreaker Horror, so that way, you can't have them do anything. So, there's also Adnaz, which you can cast and then draw a bunch of cards and be able to combo off from basically anywhere. One of the really neat things is, even though Tasker is a 6 CMC commander, it has Delve, and so you can exile things from your graveyard, so that way Tasker costs cheaper, but also you can select what the first activation will give you, essentially. So if you have 2 counter spells in the graveyard, you're going to get a counter spell. And so having it be 6 CMC, but cheaper to cast, is really relevant, especially with the effects like Birthing Pod and Neoform, which are just faster ways to get Hullbreaker Horror, Coma, the Cosmos Serpent, Toxrill, just your big, flashy finishers out.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. I love Toxrill. Big points in your direction. Bones. One thing I'm noticing, no Toxrill in this deck. How can you make up for that with no Toxrill in Atraxa?
Okay. I must admit that is a weakness of the deck, is that I don't have Toxrill. However, Atraxa is really the only big dumb creature you need in this list. What she does is give you immense value immediately. Like, having played against this commander, having seen this commander several times, what she does is just enter the battlefield and end the game immediately. And if the game is not ended immediately, the Atraxa player has gained so much value that it's going to end very soon afterwards. In CDH, obviously board advantage is very strong. Card advantage is generally how you win. Getting the best card advantage at the table sets you up very well to win. That's why we see cards like, Fish, Mr. Gamora, and Risk Study. See the amount of play that they do. Just immense card advantage is like one of the strongest ways to win the game. So that is sort of the deal with Atraxa. You want to get a lot of mana, cast big dumb creature, and win.
I can appreciate big dumb creatures, and I can appreciate having a lot of hand space. Having a lot of cards in the hand is something I enjoy. What do I do with these Atraxa cards? What's my... I see, again, Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation. I know what I'm seeing there. What else do I got?
So there are a few ways to win in this deck. Obviously, you have the classic Oracle Consultation. That is generally the strongest way to win the game in these. Like any deck playing blue-black is going to be playing that combo. But there are other interesting things that you can do with specifically Atraxa. Atraxa, being an enter the battlefield ability that does what it does, means that you can combo with Food Chain. Food Chain being 3 mana green enchantment, 2 and a green, exile a creature you control at X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value, and that mana can only be spent on creature spells.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you combo Food Chain with Mist Hollow Griffin, which is a creature you can cast from exile. And what you do is you keep recasting Griffin with Food Chain until you have infinite creature mana. Filter that into infinitely casting and exiling Atraxa with your Food Chain to draw your deck. And from there, you can win with, you can win with Thassa's Oracle, you can win with other ways. And another thing you have is Displacer Kitten. Displacer Kitten is when you cast a non-creature spell, you get to exile and return a permanent you control. So that, obviously, with Atraxa, lets you manually storm through your deck really easily by casting non-creature spells. There's a lot of, artifacts, random tutors, random stuff like Sword of Plowshares, Veil of Summer, just you can cast very cheap, get more blinks off of Atraxa. But there's also the combo of Teferi, Time Raveler, Displacer Kitten, and like a mana positive rock that lets you do something like, for example, you have Lotus Petal. You can play the Lotus Petal, blink Teferi, use Teferi's minus ability, blink the Lotus Petal, replay the Lotus Petal, blink Teferi, repeat to draw your deck with Teferi's draw a card ability.
Disgusting.
Very disgusting. And the coolest thing is you can generate mana off of that if you have something like a Mox Opal, where you can tap the Mox Opal for a mana, then blink it, then replay it, blink the Teferi, or then bounce it, then blink Teferi, and now you're generating mana too. And that lets you, cast your Thassa's Oracle. This deck is a first draft. There's other things you can include, and there's other ways you can build the deck. This deck that I have presented, though, is it wants to win with Thassa's Oracle. That is the main goal. But how you get there is very unique and very flashy, which is what I was thinking of when you said you wanted the deck to win in a very flashy way. Bouncing Atraxa repeatedly, I find very flashy. You get to just reveal the top 10 cards and go deeper into your library and repeatedly cast spells and blink your commander and have your entire deck in your hand by the end of it. So I thought that would be interesting.
I like hearing this from both of you, but I am left with a question of, let's bring it back to me for a second. And when I used to play Gitrog, I used to do the Gitrog loop. Everyone got bored. Everyone was like, Rose, this sucks. Gwen, this sucks. I'm bored. When are you going to win? How long does winning take you? How long would winning take me in this deck?
How long it takes to win really depends on how you're trying to win. So, if you establish a loop like Hullbreaker Horror and 2 mana rocks, then you can present a loop to the table and propose a shortcut, because it's a deterministic loop. And you say, hey, I have infinite mana here. I am going to mill entire deck and put all non-land cards to my hand. And they go, okay, cool, yeah, that works. And then you immediately cast Oracle and have like 50 million counter spells to back it up. And so that can take maybe 2 minutes, depending on what you need to do to set up the winning turn. So it could be very, very quick, but if you're winning through something like Ad Naz or Peering to the Abyss, then it could take longer, just because that's not necessarily a deterministic loop. And so they get you there. They absolutely help you get there, but they are slower ways to do it compared to like Birthing Pod or Neoform.
And Bones?
So winning, of course, can be, well, there's a few different ways to go about it, like I said. Generally, you're ending with fastest Oracle. Oracle Consultation, as we know, is a pretty fast combo. You can get it out really fast, and it resolves very fast if nobody has the answer. But the combos I described as well earlier don't take that long. Food Chain and Mist Hollow Griffin, once you have the infinite mana and draw your deck, it's very hard to lose. But yeah, it's really hard to lose once you draw your deck. So you just draw your deck and then you present enough mana to Thassa's Oracle with like your entire deck's counterspells worth of protection, and the game just ends right there. And with the Teferi Kitten and mana positive rock situation, you also don't take a lot of time. Like, it sounds like a lot of actions to play and Blink Teferi and bounce an artifact to hand and continue like that. But it's really not, because once you have it going, you can just say, okay, well, now I can continue this loop to draw a card at will, or to continuously draw your deck. So you don't actually have to like manually do the whole thing. The one thing that is manual that you might want to be doing is Displacer Kitten plus Atraxa. And even that is like, it's so flashy, and it's actually like, when you're doing it, it's very fun. And it's very like interesting to watch, I think, because it's like, I mean, obviously you can be like, oh, finish your turn, whatever. But it's really not hard to get there very quickly once you start Displacer Kittening Atraxa. So generally, I'd say like the deck is also like, this is a more like controlling deck. Both of us brought more reactive decks, but I think this one is capable of going very fast just by virtue of being in these colors. Sans red. Obviously, red's very fast, but just having so many colors, having so much fast mana, having like black rituals, I have Carpet of Flowers, Dorks. It's not very hard to put out a win like very early in the game.
I see. So let me move on to my next hypothetical, and say we've got into a bad situation where I haven't gotten the bye this round, and I'm going in second. And the player number 1, or hell, even players 1, 2, and 3, and I'm fourth, are all aggro. What am I doing? Well, how do I save myself? I guess the question is, how does this deck protect itself?
Okay, so after doing a quick count of the list I sent you, there are 24 interactive pieces. So 1 out of 4 cards in your deck are going to be interactive in some way. Either a bounce spell, a removal spell, counter spell, or a stacks piece like Dothia or Opposition Agent or Gilded Drake. And so with the advantage engines you have being like Necropotence, Rhystic Study, Ledger Shredder, and again, Tassiger himself, you are always going to be drawing cards. You will always have a full grip of 7 if you're playing well. And especially with Tassiger, you can have an effect like Seedborn Muse, where you want to tap every turn, and so you can mill yourself, get more cards in hand, and just keep interacting with people time and time again. Because anything in your graveyard can go back to your hand, as long as it's an on-land. And so you're able to interact with everyone all the time. So the best way to make sure you don't lose to other people is make sure other people don't do anything, you know?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Like I said, we're both playing very interactive decks here. A lot of the things are going to be the same, being in Sultai, being in 4-color. It's worth noting a lot of us, we have counter spells naturally. Lots of free counter spells like Mental Misstep, Pact of Negation, Force of Negation, Mind Break Trap, Force of Will. A lot of 1-mana interaction. Being in white, we have access to Swords of Plowshares. We have access to silence effects, Ranger Captain of Eos to shut down a player trying to go for a combo. We have Chain of Vapor to bounce things, Touch Spirit Realm to exile things, or also bounce Atraxa. You draw so many cards that you're usually going to have the ability to actually interact. And then we get to run creatures like Dranith Magistrate, Orcish Bowmasters, Opposition Agent, Notion Thief that shut down decks trying to go for wins or can make winning very hard with, one-sided stacks while we get set up. And, a lot of it operates at instant speed as well. Like a lot of the cards I just named enter at instant speed, so you're able to just sort of set back, gain mana advantage while holding up spells, draw cards, and then once you counter the right spells or remove the right creatures, you can try and go for a win yourself. And you do have a lot of utility creatures and a lot of powerful instants that sort of bridge the gap between the early game and winning. So that's how you usually get there.
Okay. All right. I'm kind of a fun player. I won't lie to you people. So the most important thing to me is that I can have some fun with it. What card off the top do you think exemplifies this is my trap card?
I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, it's kind of just Atraxa. If you want an answer, if you want an answer within the deck, it's definitely Displacer Kitten. When you see Displacer Kitten resolve in Atraxa, you know that the end is near because that card just provides such absurd value in this deck. It is part of a win condition combo. It can draw you like half your deck in one turn, like very easily. But the reason I say Atraxa is because every time I see this card played, every time you actually get up that mana and cast Atraxa, she provides you so much value. Like, you look at the top 10, you saw the card works, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The max you can draw with an Atraxa is 8 cards. So the fact that you just enter the battlefield, get a bunch of, refill your hands, you get everything you need. It's also just, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 7-mana 7/7 with 4 keywords. So even on the battlefield, it's an absolute monster. Like, just the fact that it has such an enormous impact immediately when it enters the battlefield, the fact that it, a lot of the combos sort of just work really well with it. The fact that it can draw you into free or cheap interactions so that even if you're like, okay, I don't have a counterspell for Atraxa, maybe I can do something when it enters. I'm going to draw like 5 cards when it enters and be able to stop what you're doing. It's just terrifying to sit across from. And having sat across from the commander a lot of times, it really feels like once she resolves, the game just ends instantly.
Bones, that was a great answer for like a haymaker, but that didn't answer the question for like what's your trap card. So from my experience playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you need to place your trap cards and then wait for your opponent to do something, and then you activate your trap card and benefit from the interaction between what they're doing and what you've prepared for. So, I would say the trap card in Tassiger, there are 2 options. The first trap card would be Gilded Drake, because if somebody has a very important permanent like Displacer Kitten or like a Winota or just something that is an absolute haymaker. Okay, great. But you play your Gilded Drake and you take that, and then you start using it? Oh, that just completely swings the game in your favor. The second card that I would consider the best trap card would probably be Culling Ritual. Because everyone and their mother just plays a bunch of
Interesting.
low-cost mana rocks, a bunch of low-cost mana dorks, and there's going to be a ton of things on the board, right? And so with Tasigur, you can cast Culling Ritual. You get like a bajillion mana from it, right? And sure, some of your stuff might be destroyed by it, but you get like 7 or 8 mana. You can activate Tasigur twice and rebuild your board immediately. You can profit so much off of Culling Ritual. It is insane in this list. Also, just pointing out, with Culling Ritual and other effects like Sacrifice, you can get rid of your commander. You can make a lot of mana. You can recast your commander. And when you're doing that, you can also exile cards from your graveyard that you don't need. And then the first activation you have, you get the card that you want. And so if you have like a demonic tutor in your graveyard, but you don't have a way to like guaranteed get demonic tutor again, you can do sacrifice the Tasker, recast Tasker, exile everything except for the demonic tutor, and then when you activate, you'll probably be getting that back. And so Tasker is probably my third choice for a trap card. So I'm torn between those three: Gilded Drake, Culling Ritual, and Tassiger himself.
I love Gilded Drake as a trap card. It's ruined my life, as you can probably imagine. I played Voltron Joda.
Gwen, we have enough time for one, maybe two questions. So what are you just itching to know right now about these very spicy commanders? These two eligible bachelorettes,
Bachelor Praetors.
I don't know.
I see these deck lists, and I'm like, how pimp can these be? I like my cards to look pretty sweet, and I gotta say,
But he does have an ultimate box topper. So full art foil, and that goes for how much is the foil? That goes for $10, right? But if you like the old border,
he's got his everything on display there.
but if you want like the old border, because a lot of people like old borders for bling, the old border foil is like $30, right? For Tassiger, there's a lot of options for bling. I think the specific list I sent was like 15,000 just because of all the foils.
It's okay. 15, a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But when I look at Atraxa, I have to scroll down to see how many printings I've got going on here. Okay, there's only like 7, but whatever.
Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about the Atraxa printings. I am a big proponent for alternate arts, secret layers. I want them to go crazy with printings. I want my deck to be like 500 different artists, and they all have extremely unique, weird border and art styles. So the all will be one treatment made me very happy. There's the oil slick printing,
Yes.
which came in like the really special thing, and that has like a unique foiling, and it's sort of in dark colors, but you can really see the detail of the commander, and it looks very cool. It looks like this. And another one that I'm a big fan of is the Step and Complete foil. And these ones are a bit more colorful, and they're kind of crazy with the detail. Everything looks like alien and terrifying.
Yeah.
And it has little Phyrexian symbols that glow in the art when you shine them in the light. Like, let me tell you, I was building a modern deck, and I want Capricious Hellraiser.
We're not here for
right?
modern. Get that out of here.
No. But listen. So I got the step and complete art, and when you look at that thing in the light, the way the Phyrexian symbols shine, you really feel like you're playing for the glory of Phyrexia.
It really makes you feel like a Phyrexian.
Exactly. There's nothing that's gonna make you feel more like goddess of evil than putting a Trax on the stack and having the Phyrexian oil slick glow like assault your opponent's eyes. It doesn't actually do that, but
I have a very serious question for the both of you. Let's put some money where your mouths are and pretend that tomorrow there's a $10,000 tournament for first place. Would you take your deck to that tournament? As is.
Yes. Yes, I would. Like I was saying, this deck is actually based around a deck that was just in a tournament I was casting. And that player, I believe, made top 16.
My first tournament, I was top 10. So what if there were 18 players? Whatever.
We had an Atraxa. We had 2 Atraxas within the top 16, actually. This is a commander that is currently putting up results.
You're saying this commander gets around?
This commander gets around a little bit, When you draw this many cards, you tend to attract a lot of attention. And Atraxa has had a lot of people interested in it. It just got 3 lists onto the Brewers Corner of the database in the nearest update. It's got a lot of eyes on it, and for good reason. It's very strong and very tournament viable, in my opinion.
Interesting. Riley, I forward you the same question, but also say I like my commander to be my commander. I don't want this double stepping. I don't want to see a pod full of Tassigers. Is that going to happen to me?
No, it wouldn't. So, if you look at EDH top 16 at all, right? The list for tournament reports on that, right? Atraxa has 58 entries, and so 58 other people have played Atraxa in a tournament that got recorded. Okay. On the other hand, Tassiger has only had 14 recorded entries. So, your chance of being the only Tassiger player at a table are very good. And Tassiger is old enough where not a whole lot of people have been looking at the deck for a while. And so, not a lot of people will really know what you're doing. So, I feel like if you want, your deck to be your own deck and for recognition to go to you specifically, Tassiger would be the pick because everybody's playing Atraxa right now. Going back to your other question about, hey, would you play this in a tournament tomorrow for $10,000? Honestly, I would say no. But the reason for that, I believe, in a successful relationship, you need to put the hours in. You need to do the work. You need to have that practice with the deck. And I don't have that kind of relationship with Tassiger. My devotion lies elsewhere. However, if you were to practice with Tassiger for like a week or two and play Tassiger a bunch, you could totally enter a tournament and do very well. However, I personally don't have that experience to play this specific deck at the moment. But if I'm given more time than just, today, I would definitely be comfortable playing this in a tournament.
I see. I like where your head's at.
Awesome answers, everyone, and great questions. So as we come to a close, Gwen, you have a big decision to make here. Will you choose the Dommy Mommy Atraxa or the Twink with the Whip Tassiger?
I think we all know the answer here. I pick Atraxa. I want to pick Atraxa not only in the fact that she's kind of 5-color, almost. She's not 5-color because she's only 4-color, as you can see. I like playing green, although Tasker is green. But Tasker doesn't have white. I can't play Dranith in Tasker.
How many white cards is Atraxa actually playing? Silence, Dranith, Ranger Captain, and what else?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly how many white cards I'm playing. I'm playing Teferi Time Raveler, Esper Sentinel, Grand Abolisher, Lotho Corrupt Sheriff, Ranger Captain Evios. I am playing Swords of Plowshares. I am playing Silence. I am playing Enlightened Tutor, Touch the Spirit Realm, and Smothering Tithe.
Okay, so 10 cards? Yeah, that's barely a splash. You're barely playing white.
So here's the cool thing about a commander playing as many cards as Atraxa is. You can sort of flavor the deck to your play preference and the cards you think are good in a particular meta. Like I said, this is a more reactive Atraxa list. You can also go for a more proactive list, trying to speed out something like a Parent to the Abyss or an Ad Nauseam. You could go even slower, remove some of the rituals, and try and just go for super control. Or you could go somewhere in between, which is where I think I'm more on the controlling side here. But I also think I'm trying out a lot of new and interesting cards in this list that you might be interested in. And I think being with this many colors in this, like, an open-ended somewhat commander that's also just very powerful, I think is very nice to just have, because you can season it to your own play patterns and your own cards that you think are good in the format.
Yeah, or Deflorexia, my man. But yeah, I'm going to take a check, so I'm sorry, Riley. You're welcome, Bones.
Woohoo!
I love you both.
Well, big thanks to Riley for coming out, and congratulations to Bones for taking Atraxa all the way and winning over Rose's heart with it.
Atraxa will be going all the way, thank you.
And I feel like this is a part where I'm supposed to hand out some beads or something, but in lieu of that, I am just going to have everyone hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. Tell me which one you would have picked here today. Gwen, I hope you have a very happy life together, and I'm sure we'll check in with you some months down the road. One of those home network check-in videos.
That'll be great. Speaking of, yo, can I borrow like $15,000, Matt? I have this new deck I need to build.
Ask Bones. He's rolling in money now.
Subscribe or I will complete you.